Welcome to the Holistical Podcast, your premier source for everything energy psychology, holistic health, wellness, and authentic living. We explore the wisdom of ancient traditions and lived experiences alongside insights from today's modern thought leaders and wellness professionals who are making a difference in the world through collaboration and intention. Tune in for stories and sage advice on how to have it all the holistic way. Welcome to the Holistical Podcast. This is Carrie Versalini, your host, and we have a new host today, Elizabeth Gillis from Bali Holistic Wellness Center. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me to come today.
Of course. It's a pleasure to have you here. And if you're not familiar with Bali Holistic Wellness Center, she is located in Londonderry, New Hampshire. So for people who are familiar with the area of Londonderry, where are some landmarks?
Landmarks is I'm very close to the Market Basket Plaza.
Okay.
Off exit 4 off 93.
Okay, great. And I would love to know a little bit about your background as we start this interview, learning about you and your business. So why don't you tell me where you kind of start off? Were you always in wellness with background, or did you start off differently?
My background is in poor health.
Poor health?
Yes.
Really?
So I do not have a background in wellness at all.
Mm-hmm.
Although I guess I could have made a pretty good nurse, but that just was not the avenue that I went to. And I would say most of my childhood and growing up, I was not the healthiest kid around. I used to get super high fevers, like 105, 106 fevers. I seemed to catch everything, and as I got older, I just seemed to have more and more things happen to me and go on. And by the time I was 29, I think I was dealing with like chronic eczema, and I had thyroid issues, carpal tunnel, chronic tonsillitis. I got everything that ever came around. Yeah, I got really bad cold sores. My immune system was junk. Mm-hmm. And finally in 1999, I really went downhill, and I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis.
Oh no.
And I didn't know that there were alternative or, really natural approaches out there. Mm-hmm. Despite the fact that my family is from Europe, you would think that they would have all of these natural remedies, and other than chamomile tea, and we always make a joke that my mother always had a solution of put butter on it. It would be better. We still laugh about it today.
That's funny.
But other than that, anytime that there was a problem, we went to the doctors and we got a pill for it. So that was the only approach that I knew. So whenever I had tonsillitis, I went to the doctors. They gave me something. If I had a cold, then I would take, Dayquil, to get me through the day at work. If I was tired, I would just drink more coffee. I didn't really know. Even though I didn't eat like junky, I was always one to pretty much cook foods from scratch, but obviously that wasn't enough because the rest of my lifestyle did not support optimal health and well-being. Yep. I was a bit of a workaholic. I thought sleeping was a waste of time. And so I figured if I didn't sleep, then I could get a lot more done. And clearly life caught up to me. And so that, I'm, in a way very grateful for that, because that is actually what changed my life. Wow. And led me to do what I'm doing now, which is holistic healthcare, non-invasive methods to help people. And it is it's an incredible practice to be in. And I am so grateful to be where I am today. And it was my own journey in poor health that led me to learn these other ways of helping people, because conventional medicine did not help me. The more that I went to them, I am grateful that the internet was around when I got sick at the time, because it allowed me to do some research and learn how to better take care of my health, how to eat better, avoid processed foods and lots of herbs and vitamins and things like that. But I would say that illness got me into those alternative methods. So I started hiring the regular doctors who just started giving me medications and doing all of that stuff that really didn't do anything for me to help. And I started seeking out the chiropractors, the naturopaths, and alternative medicine people. And that was where I finally felt heard. It wasn't just like, here's your symptom, here's the pill for that. It was, what are you doing? How are you taking care of yourself? Oh, you're tired? Well, have you thought about taking a nap? It's the solution is not coffee, because you already have adrenal exhaustion. And so it was really eye-opening, and I was in remission within a year. With using natural methods and changing my lifestyle, sleeping a lot more, giving up caffeine, finding natural products that really made a difference. And that led me into actually starting to learn holistic-based and energy-based treatments and therapies.
Great.
And so, I learned my very first modality. It was called Touch for Health. It's very heavily based in Chinese medicine, working with the meridians of the body. I thought that was way off the charts. Like, I didn't understand this Chinese medicine stuff at all. And I was still a little bit skeptical, but as I started working on other people, started learning about it, I could feel things happening. And even my own issues started dissipating even more.
Wow.
Chronic back problems that I had from slip and fall, all of a sudden my back stopped hurting as much. I didn't have to ice it every single day. And I'm like, what is going on with that? So I started doing this Touch for Health, which was wonderful. I found it fascinating, but I knew that there was something missing. And there were people that I worked on, and they just kept coming back to me most of the time, and it was the same thing that I had to do for them over and over and over again. And I wasn't really into selling people products, and so I wanted something that I thought could provide more lasting changes. So I did a lot of research, and it took me a couple years, and I found a bunch of different things, and it was like, yeah, that's good, but for whatever reason, it just didn't feel like it was the right fit. And then I found this, and I'm like, yeah, maybe that's great for somebody else, but it just doesn't feel right. So after, I swear, Googling the exact same way for 2 years, something called Body Talk came up. And what's really funny about Body Talk is I was really judgy back then. I was like, what a dumb name. I'm like, Body Talk? I'm like, couldn't they call it Body Talkology? Like, make it sound really important?
Like psychology.
Yeah, and that's just the shortened version. It's technically called the Body Talk Healthcare System. But I just thought it was just overly simplified, and it didn't sound important enough. But when I started looking into it, I was fascinated. It was addressing so many different things and resolving so many issues for people that I really felt it was the golden egg that I was searching for. It addressed the physical body, it addressed the body chemistry, it addressed the emotional components, and I knew that the emotional part was a big thing for a lot of people. And so I decided that this was something that I really needed to pursue. And I remember researching to see where it was being taught. And of course, finances, right? How much is it, and where is it being taught? And they happen to be having a class, of all places, in Bangor, Maine. So a very short distance from where one of my brothers lived. And I thought, if this wasn't a sign, what is? And the funny thing is I had spent all this money learning a few other things, and my husband's like, are you going to spend thousands of dollars on something that isn't really going to take you anywhere? And I said, no, you don't understand. This is something that I feel that I have to do. I have to take this class.
Very compelled.
I was absolutely compelled and drawn by an invisible field to go and take this class. So, but I was still a little skeptical. Like, is it really as great as you say that it is? So I called the lady who was coordinating the class and said, come on, be straight with me. Like, is it as good as they say it is? And she's like, absolutely. And can I do this as a practice, like full time? And she said, absolutely, you can. So I signed up for the class. I never got a treatment. I never knew anybody who had ever experienced Body Talk in my life. I went on complete faith that this was where I needed to be and what I needed to do. Now, why I went that way, I don't know. Maybe because if I had gotten a treatment or known somebody, maybe I would have been a little bit more skeptical. So I just jumped right in. I don't advise that for most people because I do not have a medical background, and there is a lot of Chinese medicine as well as Western medicine involved in this training. So you're learning the principles, right? You're learning.
When you don't have that background, it's hard to understand the languaging that they're using, right?
It can be.
So it's like going into something without a map.
Right, and you're learning, the classes are 8-9 hours a day for multiple days in a row. And so you're learning something when you're completely green and don't even know, like, that you have multiple lobes of a brain.
Yeah, right?
Really?
With those little basics.
And you're going into a class where you're learning 40 different techniques, all these new principles. And it was just really overwhelming. And in my class, I had people who have been getting treatments for years. They were nurses, they were massage therapists, they had medical backgrounds. And here I am, not knowing brain, it's here. And that's about all I know.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, that was the start of this journey. And initially I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to learn this, but I did learn it. I took the class multiple times and started practicing, and now I'm 12 years into it.
Great.
And it is my primary practice that I do. There's other submodalities within the Bali Talk healthcare system. I do lymphatic drainage, I do fascia work, I work on a lot of COVID recovery.
Okay, great.
And it's an incredible modality, and it is authentically holistic in its approach because...
So you're saying Body Talk actually works on COVID recovery?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So there's a whole aspect of Body Talk that involves body chemistry, where we can actually work with the chemicals that are currently in the body and put the brain on alert to search specific things. And so the COVID training is a little bit more in the more advanced stuff. That's not necessarily something that you're going to learn right away, but you can learn basic techniques initially that any kind of virus or pathology can be helped with this body chemistry technique.
Okay. So Body Talk, for those who've never heard about it before, what does it look like when you're doing it, or what do people experience as it's happening?
The way that I practice, so there are different practitioners that have different approaches. Part of my approach is doing I do some testing of the physical body. So we're going to be checking for symmetry, range of motion, like an orthopedic type evaluation.
Okay.
And so I check range of motion, ask the person, of course, where are their symptoms, what bothers them, what are their goals that they have in working with me. And I do this evaluation, and then I go ahead and I do a treatment. And the treatment is just simply the person laying on the table, massage table. They could be sitting if the massage table doesn't work for them. For whatever reason, and the difference is that I'm asking their body health-related questions.
Okay.
We're working with priorities of the body, because sometimes what the person that comes in thinks is the most important is different from what the body thinks is most important.
And would you say that's pretty consistent?
It is very consistent. Sometimes if someone has very severe symptoms and illness, a lot of times their body will be right in alignment with what the person needs and wants.
Okay.
But if they're coming in and they have a whole laundry list, we don't know where we're going to go.
Varying things,
Because if they have a lot of health issues, but their body is so stressed out all the time, sometimes we have to address those stressors. And we have to neutralize their stressors. And why do they have those stressors? So if every time they're home and their kids drive them crazy, we need to address that, because the more they're stressed out, the less resources they have for their body to fix what's going on.
So now when you say address those stressors, what does that look like for you as the practitioner to address those?
So some of the things could be something called active memory, in which the body holds on to an emotional charge.
Okay.
It could be environmental stressors, in which we need to address it in that way. It could go back to past events in which certain things trigger the person in a certain environment. There could be a lot of different reasons, because there isn't one specific reason for each person that comes in with the same symptom.
Yeah. So it sounds like you do a bit of diagnostic stuff in this realm as well to help you figure out what the stressors specifically are, or people already know what they are.
You would think
or the
that
body tells you.
I work on nonverbal people.
Really?
And all I need to do is ask the body questions. So it's almost like using the body as a human lie detector test.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So is this what you need from me?
And you're talking about muscle testing with this,
It's a
correct?
form of muscle testing.
Okay.
We actually call it muscle checking. It's
checking.
neuromuscular biofeedback,
Okay.
to be sounding really important. But we basically call it a form of muscle testing.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so we have a whole chart, a flow chart that we follow, and we simply ask the body, would you like me to go here for you today? No. Would you like me to go here? No. Would you like me to go here? And it says yes. Okay, so say we are in one specific area. So Body Talk, when you learn it, breaks it down in a very easy way. It's a chart with bubbles, and you go, am I in the first bubble? Am I in the second bubble? Am I in the third bubble? Am I in the fourth bubble?
Yeah.
Oh,
Almost
the body
like
says
houses.
yes.
Yes.
The body says yes to the fourth bubble. Okay, then we go through, is it the fourth bubble? It never will be, because that's too many things for the body to work on in one time. But it will give us specifics. Are we working in body chemistry? Is it yes or no? If the body says yes, okay, well, what about body chemistry? Are we working with viruses? Are we working with microbes? Are we working with allergies? Are we working with intolerances?
Okay.
If I get a yes to allergies, do I need more information about this? Or is it just a general overview for the brain to kind of do an extra scan on the body? Or is it a specific allergy that we need to look at? If I get specific allergy, then I want to know what kind. Then I ask the body, is it something caused by something that the person eats? Is it something in the air, something that's inhaled? Is it something topical that they put on their skin? And I can get very, very specific by asking the body these questions, and it responds to me in a yes/no answer.
Interesting.
So say, for example, it comes up that the person has a gluten intolerance, and this is an actual client of mine that had gluten intolerance come up, or a gluten allergy. But there could be other reasons, right? What triggered that body to go into that response of gluten? So it may bring me back in time to a traumatic event or an emotional experience that the person had 10, 15, 20 years ago. So it may give me an age. So it's like, do I need to know the age? Yes. Okay, 0 to 10, 10 to 20. Do I need to be more specific? Are there any emotions that are still stored and associated with that experience that are then triggering, that have caused a trigger of that gluten allergy? If there is, yes. Sometimes we need to connect, and there's different parts of the body that need to have optimized communication, because the body is not just a system of parts, it's an interrelationship of communication and connection. And so we gather all this information until the body says, we don't need any information, and then we simply do a very gentle tap-out procedure.
Tap out meaning?
Tap out meaning it's not EFT where you're tapping over acupuncture points. We're actually doing a gentle tapping over the 3 brains. So the body has 3 brains. We have the head brain, that's the thinky brain.
Okay.
Right?
I like how you say that.
Yeah, that's the thinky brain. It runs the programs.
Yeah.
And we tap over the head brain to get
So
the
you
brain's
just, like,
attention.
physically
Physical,
tapping.
gentle tapping over or in the area of the head brain.
Okay.
And that's to get the brain's attention. So that's like me coming to you and tapping you on the shoulder saying, Carrie, hello,
Yeah.
please pay attention to what I have to say.
Yeah.
So the mind body, the body of the person, that intelligence of the innate wisdom has given me these formulas or these homework assignments that the brain then has to carry through.
Okay.
Then we tap over the heart brain. So that is to help. It's like hitting the save button on your computer. Do not forget these instructions or this to-do list that we've given the brain. Okay? So please, heart, continue to remind the brain what it needs to do until the assignment has been completed. And then we tap over the enteric or the gut brain. And that helps to process the formula, the changes, and also there's discernment, so the gut brain can help discern, do I want to do this, do I want to do that? And it's very, very gentle, it's very simple, it's very comfortable. Sometimes people even fall asleep, but the changes can be very, very profound.
Cool. And sounds like it happens fairly quickly.
It does.
As well.
It does.
So do people feel a response immediately, or is it like a slow kind of settling in and
It depends on the
shift?
person. So with Body Talk, because we're working with the priorities of the body, it depends on how quickly that person is ready to change.
Okay. So we're talking about actual energetic resistance
We
as
are.
well.
We are.
Do you work on the energetic resistance if there is some there?
We can.
Okay.
Yes. So if there is a resistance of the body, we usually address that in the first area called permissions. Do we have permission to work on this person? And if not, can we get permission? Maybe it's the spouse that his wife tormented him to come in to see me, and he's really reluctant to be there. Then we need to work on the permission to allow us to move forward in the treatment. And there's just so many different areas that we can go in Body Talk, and people have different experiences. And like I said, we're going to go at the right pace for them.
Yep.
So if someone needs to do things in little tiny bits and pieces, we're going to go in little tiny bits and pieces, because the point is to not overwhelm the body and do too much. Do just the right amount.
Yeah.
It's like Goldilocks, right? We're not going to. It's not going to be too much, and it's not going to be too little. It's going to be exactly what that person needs at that moment in time.
Yep.
For some people, we may be working together for weeks or months. Or even sometimes years if they have a lot of really bad chronic issues. And other people, sometimes they come in for 1 or 2 appointments and their migraines are gone, or their physical pain is gone, and we've been able to address in 1 or 2 appointments exactly what they came in for.
Yeah, and knowing that this is an experience I myself have with clients too, you never know which client is going to be the fast one versus the one that needs more time.
Correct.
So there's no judgment about that, right? It's wherever your energy is, wherever your body is at, is what it needs to be for that time.
And sometimes I'd compare it to when you're in financial debt. Sometimes you want to pay off those small credit card bills first, so that you have more money to put towards those bigger balances. And sometimes the body works that way. Sometimes all of a sudden, oh, my ears don't ring anymore. Oh, I've been sleeping a little bit better. I'm only waking up once a night instead of 5 times a night. Right? They still have the big issue that they came in for. But sometimes the body wants to fix these little things first. Oh, yeah, my hearing's much better. Right? Oh, my digestion is a little bit better. Or, that wrist pain is gone away. The body will take care of whatever it feels is what's necessary to take care of first, right? Because it has a certain sequence in which it wants to address things. It has a certain sequence in which it wants to do things, because our goal with Body Talk is for the person to have lasting improvements and not have to come back for that anymore.
Yes.
If we're able to address all of the components that lead to a person experiencing dis-ease in the body, disease, dis-ease, illness, or physical symptoms, then that issue will not return. And that's really the goal. I have people with hormonal imbalances that they're 5 years out and it has not come back.
That's amazing.
Physical pain, it has not come back.
That's great.
And if it does come back, well, then we haven't found all the missing pieces of the puzzle.
Now, I know you have an interesting story about the Body Talk piece with the physical pain. Would you like to share that?
So with the physical pain, I'm going to say that first, any kind of issues that anybody has, it will start in the energy body. And if it's not addressed on that level, then it will actually spill out of that energetic cup and spill over into the physical body. But the physical is not always what people might think it was. Like if you have a neck pain, it might not be simply because you slept wrong. There are often, whenever there's a symptom, there's usually multiple factors involved in someone experiencing a symptom. And that last thing of you not sleeping right was probably just the straw that broke the camel's back. So there could be a lot of different things involved. It could be emotional, it could be biochemical, there could be 5 or 6 different components that actually contribute to that pot of eventually feeling that experience. And it's the body's way of getting your attention. So you're not doing the things that the body is giving you these little whispers towards. And if you're not paying attention to those whispers, then eventually the body's going to get louder and louder and louder and finally say, all right. It's like when our kids drive us crazy, right? We can tolerate this, we can tolerate that, but then when they start getting out of control, we're like, all right, that's enough. And we get really strict and we get really firm and we're like, that's it. You go sit down right now. I don't want to hear another word. And the body kind of does the same thing. So if you're not able to address things when they're little problems, it will continue to get louder and louder and louder.
Or throw out a big one.
Or throw out a really big one that you cannot ignore, because we will pay attention to pain. Absolutely. So that is the body's way of getting your attention, say something's not right, and I need you to stop, I need you to figure it out. The challenge is us being able to figure it out on our own, because a symptom is a symptom, and it's not necessarily, the symptom is not necessarily the problem, it's an indication that a problem exists.
Yes. And do you have any awareness of the pain aspect when it comes to people who work out a lot? Where you physically create potential pain from like the muscle tearing and growing your muscles and stuff like that. Is that the same thing? Do you know?
Well, there's the mechanical part, right? So if someone has really bad posture, well, there's not a whole lot that we can do with Body Talk. to make them stand up straight and have better posture, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if there's underlying components, like if someone has a repeat ankle injury, well, why is that part of the body weakened? What has gone on to compromise the body's ability to be strong in that area? And it could be meridians, it could be experiences, right? We've got the gallbladder meridian that's going down in there, and the liver meridian, and all of these things that can kind of represent different things. With Body Talk, we don't really know what those components are, but the body will let us know that these are all parts and pieces that need to be looked at, revealed, let go of.
Yeah.
That are creating a weakness in the body. So if someone has spinal issues, right? What is the spine? The spine is about support. If you aren't supported in your life by other people, or you don't feel supported, then your spine is going to be compromised. It's not going to have the strength and resiliency and the flexibility that it needs in order to do its job properly. Right? If you have arthritis in your hands, what makes you in your life so rigid that you don't have the flexibility of your joints? Right? So there's this whole consciousness and this body psychology that goes on. If you have chronic respiratory issues and you just seem to get bronchitis all the time, what kind of grief or unshed tears in Chinese medicine are you holding on to that causes you to be weak in the metal element and in your lungs? That causes your lungs to be the weak part of your body. There's all these different things, the stomach meridian. What are you struggling to digest in your life and your experiences? Right? There's all of these different areas that we can look into. We're looking at Western medicine, the facts and findings. So what does the gallbladder do? Oh, do we need to look at a Western perspective? That the function is off, and what contributed to that function being off? Or are we looking at body psychology or Chinese medicine? Right? The liver is about processing. It's about planning and organization. It's about the soul. It's about discernment and all of these different things, and helping with the Wei Qi of the body. There's so many different areas that we can go into Body Talk. So it's like going into a paint store, and rather than having 5 primary colors, you have 100 primary colors, and you can mix and match all of those things and do complete customized healthcare for an individual.
Wow, that's fascinating information. Do you have any case studies that you can give examples of something that you've worked on?
Oh gosh, I have a lot. So you kind of put me on the spot here, but I'll give an example of a little girl that I work with. I actually was doing these sessions remotely, and the poor mom, I think the girl was probably like 6 or 7 years old, and had an issue with bowel evacuations. And she had gone to naturopaths, gastro people, energy healers, and she went to some like healing psychic person, and they're like, your daughter needs Body Talk. And it was about a 2-hour drive, so I offered to do remote sessions, and every time we did a session, she had improvements. There was something with her knees as well, so her knees would buckle, or she had like a twist in her intestines or something like that. And we worked together for about 6 months. And every time we did a session, she would get longer improvements before the pain returned. And then finally, after the last session, it's been about 2.5 years, and she hasn't needed another appointment.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So remotely, how would that work differently than what you do in person?
Remotely, I basically just use like a hologram of the individual.
Okay.
And people always want to know, well, how does that work?
This is energy.
This is energy. We're working with the energy of the body. And each person, as long as we have the ability to tune into that individual, just like we all have our unique phone numbers on our cell phone, each person has a unique blueprint. And as long as the practitioner is trained in how to tap into that information, we can work on anybody, anywhere in the world, on that level. And in my case, when it's children, I usually do a recording, and then I send the parents a recording of the session, and they just play it for the child, because it has more benefit if they can hear the words as they're being spoken.
Gotcha.
But and in some cases, it actually works better, because if somebody has like white coat syndrome, or they get really nervous when they meet someone new, or aren't sure if they're going to like it, it actually can be even more beneficial for an individual if they have their nervous system gets really anxious, or they get really anxious going into a clinic to work with someone.
It takes down the edge of
It absolutely
anxiety.
does, because you're in your own environment that you're comfortable with, and there's really no better way to do that.
Fascinating. So you obviously do a lot with Body Talk. It sounds like
I
it's your
do.
primary thing that you do at your business. What else do you offer?
Within the Body Talk system, I also do lymphatic drainage. I do, which is also another wonderful modality. I do fascia balancing. I also have something called a BioScan SRT. So that's a biofeedback machine. It's an FDA-approved biofeedback device that is for stressors in the body, as well as it's really great for addressing allergies. In a very short period of time, we hook the body up to a machine, kind of like an EKG, where you're going to have electrodes over different acupuncture points of the body. We hook you up to all these, not all these wires, like three wires. And we scan the body for imbalances. Where is there inflammation? Where is there dysfunction in the different systems of the body? And what is it that your body is creating or responding to in a stress response to things that are in your environment? Beverages, trees, pollens, chemicals in foods, virtually anything.
Emotional
Mold.
stressors too?
Yes.
Really?
Emotional, genetic dispositions towards certain stressors, and addressing a lot of different things. We're not so much in priority. We kind of go by what's the most stressed area, or where is the highest issue with the body, and work our way down there. And then we use meridians, acupuncture points, and cool laser to retrain the nervous system to get it to have a better response to those stressors.
Okay, so the treatment is like a laser situation.
Yeah, it's a cool laser, breathing, and stimulating meridian pathways and acupuncture points.
Okay, and for people who aren't familiar with meridians, they are entryways, the meridian points, right? You have certain meridian points that you use that are based on an acupuncture type of picture, where they use the same map, or is it a different approach?
There are two methods of acupuncture meridians that we use with the BioScan. There is the Chinese medicine meridians, and then there's also the Vol acupuncture points. So that's a whole different thing. I recommend that people just look into and research it. There's more in the Vol scale than there are in the Chinese medicine, but we're pretty much doing a combination of both depending on what we're doing with the BioScan.
Okay.
And then we have a whole health spa where we offer other treatments as well. Everything that we do in my clinic is non-invasive, and that's my goal, is for everything to be as harm-free as possible. So it's safe at any age, any health.
So even babies?
Even babies,
really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So with babies, I do it with Body Talk. I've used the moms as surrogates if they wanted to come into the clinic. Sometimes they bring the baby in, and I ask the questions of the mom, and then I do the techniques on the baby if that's appropriate. Do a lot of remote baby work. The BioScan as well. The mom can hold the baby and have skin-to-skin contact, and we put the electrodes on her to get the information. Or we can actually use samples, saliva, hair, DNA samples, and we have a whole plate that we can actually put samples on and test with the BioScan remotely as well.
Now, I've always been confused about this with the surrogate stuff, because I know for some people be like, well, how do you know it's not her? And how do you know it's not her stuff versus the one that they're holding? Do you have any information?
I do. I used to do in my clinic before the pandemic, I used to have a women connecting with intention meeting. I would do a Body Talk session for the group of women who were there. I would ask them to give me 1 to 3 things that they would like to see improve in their lives, kind of like a way to help them manifest and break free of blocks and things that are holding them back. And I actually had a woman come up, and I did the orthopedic evaluation, just a basic one, range of motion of her legs, arms, and I did it as her. And then I put all the names of everybody who was participating at this event on a piece of paper and slid it underneath her back. Did the range of motion again. Complete different range of motion on this individual. She was floored. She couldn't believe it. So our intention is to work specifically on the person as the surrogate, and they're just being used as a conduit.
Okay, interesting.
Does that help? Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay. I know it can be very confusing, but we just put the intention out that this person is just the informational source for us to get the information if we need a physical body to work on.
Gotcha. For people who are new to the idea of the energy fields and some consciousness in there, can you talk a little bit more about that for people who are just like, this sounds ridiculous?
So I would say if how does the whole energy thing work,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you think about a radio,
Mm-hmm.
does everybody know exactly how the information is transmitted into your radio and how you get the music to play on that radio station?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So the science isn't, it's important, but it can be kind of complex. So
Yeah.
we're looking at quantum physics, which can be really kind of complicated to understand for a lot of individuals.
Mm-hmm.
But just like the signals that can get through to your cell phone from
Mhm.
someone calling you from China
Mhm.
in 3 seconds,
Mhm.
just like you can tune the radio station
Mhm.
and get a specific radio station, you can't see the music
Mhm.
coming through the airways, you can't
Mhm.
feel it,
Mhm.
but somehow it manages to get from the radio station that is miles and miles away
Mhm.
to your radio, and you can turn it on, turn it off.
Yeah.
So our
Yeah.
bodies are very similar in that way.
Mhm.
We're constantly getting signals off.
Mhm.
When you meet someone that you don't really like, the vibe that they're putting off, we call it vibes,
Mhm.
right? That's their energy,
Yeah.
right? How do you sense when someone walks into a room and is staring at you, even though you don't see them staring at
But
you?
you can feel them.
You can feel it.
Mhm.
That's your energy body picking up that information,
Mhm.
right? This is the conversation that the body is having within itself to
Mhm.
keeping things on point,
Mhm.
on balance.
Mhm.
Right? And even though we can't see it, we don't really understand it, it's there,
Mhm.
right? The heart is an electrical system. I think if you measure the distance that the heart energy puts off,
Mhm.
it's something like 10 or more feet or even 17 feet.
Mm.
Don't quote me on the number,
Yeah.
but like it is profound,
Yeah.
right? So if
Mhm.
somebody comes up to you and you're like, just step away,
Yeah.
right? That's the energy.
Yeah.
That's the energy that you're picking up from them, the energy not jiving between the two of you,
Mhm.
the vibe that you're picking up. We always use vibes, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
vibe is more
Yeah.
easier to understand,
Yeah.
but really it's just energy.
Yeah.
And we have circuits of communication and everything's functioning. The heart is pumping energy through the body to just keep everything working.
Yeah. And for those who are listening that are still not sure what the stuff is about the energy field, we will be talking about more of this in a future episode. And I'll go into a little bit more of the layers of the different energies and how you can really understand it in a different way. But I just wanted to give you a little kind of taster here for people who are not quite sure what she's talking about in this moment. But it is fascinating stuff, and this is the stuff that we love doing because we see the results, right? It's so obvious to the people who are working in this realm that there is something literally happening, and for those people who do not use this as a language, they're completely oblivious to
Right.
this. So it's not surprising that maybe the general population isn't familiar with all this stuff because our culture hasn't fully adopted the awareness of it. And that's exactly why we're doing things like this today, is to make people more aware of this ability that we all have to, one, learn from ourselves, our body has knowledge, and to also learn how to connect with others and be more integrated in our lives.
And I think people experience it all the time. They
Mhm.
just don't connect the dots
Yeah.
that it's energy,
Yeah.
right? Even
Like
if you
it's not in their vocabulary.
it's not in the vocabulary.
Mhm.
Your dog, like, how does it pick up that you need your dog, and he comes around when you're in a really bad
Yeah.
mood and your emotions are not in a good place and you're
Yeah.
upset? They're picking up your energy
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
because we're all energy beings.
Yeah.
How does a baby, when they're lying in their crib after they're newborn and they keep turning
Mhm.
in a certain direction
Mhm.
because they're trying to align themselves with certain energy
Mm.
in the universe and the whole?
Mm.
Right? Why do
That's
cats
interesting.
want to lay in certain areas and they're like laying on the ley lines?
Mm. Mhm.
Right? So animals feel this all the time. How do birds know when it's time to fly south?
Right. Or how does a mom know when her baby's about to wake up?
Right?
Because her body wakes her up
Right.
before the baby does.
Right?
Mhm.
So many different areas that we experience all the time,
Mhm.
but we just don't put that verbiage to it.
Mhm. Yeah. Or put the verbiage of, oh, it must have been a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
Because then if we think it's a coincidence, then for other people, that's convenient because then it doesn't empower us. So,
Right.
and obviously your business is all about empowering people as well. So if somebody's coming in to see you and they are really down in the dumps, they're not really feeling confident, they don't really know where to start, they're feeling very discouraged, what would you do with them?
Initially, whenever anybody comes in to work with me one-on-one with the healthcare services, part of that is having them complete a very extensive 4-page document that's going to give us all their symptoms and what their goals are in working with me. Because maybe somebody is just like, you know what, I just want to have a little bit more energy during the day, and somebody else is like, I want my business to grow, I want this. You know, we can work in personal development as well as on the physical body, right? Because there really is no, you know, if it's all energy. It's all energy. It's all energy. But we'll have a discussion. So the first appointment is typically about 90 minutes. The first half of it is going to be, what do you want? What is going on with you? And they're like, and a lot of people are like, I'm a hot mess. I've been everywhere, I've done everything, and nobody's been able to help me. And I'm like, beautiful. Because the more things that people have wrong, the more opportunity that we actually have to help them.
Which is, you know, how many people can say, bring it all.
Yeah.
We're going to figure it out.
And you can't figure it out, that's okay, because I'm going to have that conversation with your body, and together we're going to figure it out. We have to take it in baby steps, and we're going to figure it out. Your body's going to tell me exactly where we need to go, because nobody ever has a conversation with your body. When was the last time that you went to go see someone and they said, you know what, I know what you want, but what does your body actually need based on what I have, the skill sets that I have, the knowledge and experience that I have, my toolkit, what do you need from that toolkit? Is it body talk? Is it something else?
Most people are lucky if they go into a doctor's office nowadays and their doctor even asks them what's going on beyond just a symptom. They're looking for the symptom. They're not looking for what's behind the symptom. And this is even deeper than that, because this is like, what's your body saying?
What is your body saying, and why? So, you know, I know that we're going to talk about allergies at some point, but for example, if somebody has a dairy allergy, why? What happened? And if you never used to have it, what happened to your body that caused it to have a trauma towards, or a bad juju towards dairy when you used to be able to enjoy it no problem? So what's the story? Every health issue has a story behind it. And with Body Talk, that's what we're trying to figure out. What's the story that's keeping you locked in this pattern? And what can we do to change that pattern? And you know, whenever our phones need to upgrade, well, we're doing an upgrade with Body Talk in the Body. This is the program you've been running. How's that working for you? Not so good, right? So how about we try this program instead? And see what it'll do for you.
And I know some people may have heard of the book, The Body Keeps the Score, by Bessel van der Kolk.
Amazing book.
It's an amazing book, great stories, and it's similar in that mindset where it's like, it talks about, and the scientific evidence is out there now because of books like this, and the research that was done, that also just reiterates, you know, that this stuff is real. Like, the body does take stock of everything that happens in your life, and it stores energy based on whatever's going on.
It knows absolutely every experience you've ever been through, every humiliation, every embarrassment, every breakup, every heartache that you've ever had. Because sometimes people have experiences and it could just be unbelievable embarrassment. And that is staying with them their entire life. And that's going to change how their body functions and works down the road. It could be 20, 30 years later, but it stems from that embarrassment that they experienced when they were 13.
And I can just hear, because I've had clients say stuff like this, well, if my body remembers everything and I've got all this stuff that's made so many notes about all the problems I've had, I can't even begin to think of where to start. This is so overwhelming. Where do you go from there? You know, when people are just like, there's so much. I've got complex trauma. I've got all these things. Where do you begin from there? And again, is it just that decision tree where you go in? And can people experience some sort of relief pretty quickly if you have that huge mountain of stuff that you're coming from?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Not always, but I would say probably at least 70% of my clients have a noticeable improvement within 1 to 3 appointments.
That's great. Awesome.
It might be something small, but they have something positive to report. You know, the numbness isn't as bad, the shooting pain into their elbow isn't as bad, or they can turn their neck a little bit more. There's always something, and I could spend hours doing orthopedic evaluation to find the one thing that shows them physically, but that's not what we want to do. We want to get into the nitty-gritty and actually start asking their body those health-related questions, right?
And businesses like yours exist for the reason that a lot of people are getting to the place where they don't want to go in for another surgery.
Mhm.
They don't want to get another injection. They don't believe that it works, or it works temporarily and then it comes back again. So how is that different in the approach long term? So these things, you say, stay, or they come back, or they change in a little bit of a way and turn into something different when you move something?
So sometimes they will change, and if the body is in alignment with what the person wants, it's going to change really fast. Can I share a story about a gentleman who came in? This was a guy, it was really funny, and it'll give you an example of how and why we actually ask the body health related questions. So he is retired, early retirement, money is not an option, has a beautiful house overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. Went on a trip to Spain and went into the spa for a massage. The massage therapist was like, "You got a lot going on here." And we have a body talk practitioner that comes in once a week, and I would highly recommend, if you're open, that you get a session. So he was like, "Okay, I'll get a session." And he was like, "Oh, some calf issues that I had resolved that I was just so used to having that I didn't even realize." So when he came back to the US, he decided to look and see where there was a body talk practitioner locally to him. So he found me, and he came in and he's like, "Well, I want to see if you can help me with my golf swing." So, and I said, "Well, can you demonstrate your golf swing?" And he's like, "When I do this," and you could see him like tighten up. He's like, "I do PT twice a week because that helps keep me on the golf course." He goes, "I play 2 to 3 times a week." And so he's like, "If I didn't do PT, I wouldn't be able to play golf at all." I said, "Okay, great. We know, that range of motion. We know what you're in here." And he was in there specifically for him being able to play golf in his retirement years. So I had him go on the table, and every formula that came up for him, I could just tell that he was like, "I'm not buying this. I'm not buying this." And at the end of the session, I had him get up, and he's like, "I'm sorry." He goes, "But nothing that you said resonated with me." I said, "That's okay." And so a lot of what came up was his body's resistance to him being retired, because his whole upbringing was being rewarded on work. So in retirement, his body's like, no, the program is to work. And if the more you try and play, the more I'm going to resist and stop you from being able to play. And so this is all like what 80% of his treatment was about that day. So he got up and he's just shaking his head like, "This was a waste of my time. This was a waste of my money." I said, "You know what? Why don't you go ahead and demonstrate that golf swing for me?" And he's like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "How is this possible?" And he did full range of motion, not an ounce of squirming, screaming, no catching his breath, no feeling any discomfort. He's like, "This is not possible." And I said, "This is why I talk to your body and not to you." And it has not returned. He's still pain-free and able to swing the golf clubs as he likes. He's out playing golf 80-something times a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep. Because his body had a program that was running, and we had to go in there and interrupt that program. Say, "No, we don't want that anymore." It may have had its place at one point in time, but now you need to enjoy your life, and it's getting in the way. And so what can we do to get rid of that? So the body can change very quickly. Very quickly.
Belief systems are very interesting because it's clear that they, at least to energy practitioners, it's clear that they store very deeply in the body. And it sounds like this person had a belief system that was very deeply stored in his body. And it sounds like it was very quick.
It was very quick because his body needed to shift that. He needed to shift that. He just didn't know how to do it. I wouldn't say he was open.
No?
I would
So
not
even
say
though he wasn't open?
I would not say that he was an open client.
Okay.
I think he saw some improvements, but there was still a lot of skepticism because otherwise he wouldn't have made the comment saying that this is all BS, honestly. And,
so despite not being open,
I really like the skeptics because when those changes happen, I have another client that came in, and I have known this woman for years and years, and she was always like, that might be okay for other people, but not for me. Not for me. I don't understand it. Ain't gonna happen. And she has a family history of genetic disorders that is very, very neurological and very serious. And one day I was having a conversation with her, and I wasn't sure if it was her or the wine that was talking, and she's like, okay, this is running through, like, I've lost several siblings, like, this is my brother's situation.
Meaning she had been drinking?
Yeah, she had a couple glasses of wine. Maybe 3. I don't know. So I wasn't sure if she, you know, because sometimes it can be the truth serum, right? And people are a lot braver when they've had a couple of drinks. So I wasn't sure if she was serious about coming in to see me. And she's like, I'll do anything. If there's anybody that I'm willing to work with on this woo-woo level, she called it, she goes, it would be you.
Okay.
So I said, okay. But I took it with a grain of salt. Like, I really wasn't expecting her to reach out to me because I had known her for 7 years, and she had never come to see me up until this point. And so she made an appointment, and she came in, and she had colon cancer. So she had part of her colon removed. And the elimination process was happening a little bit too quickly. So after her first appointment, she's like, oh, I only have to, like, I don't have to go as urgently or as frequently now. She's like, wow, so that's really great. The second appointment she came up body chemistry. We had to address a gluten allergy. She's like, I've had this body-wide rash since I was 17 years old. Guess what? No more rash. She's like, and then she was mad. She goes, the doctors told me it was eczema. I'm like, well, that's the symptom, or that's the diagnosis. I don't diagnose. I just ask the body, hey, what do I need to do for this person?
So was the treatment whatever you did for that situation, or was it still removing gluten?
Well, I told her to stay away from gluten for 3 days and see how that went, because we want to give the body a break from whatever is triggering the symptom. And I do know that she does eat gluten on occasion, but I think she's pretty much decided to go mostly gluten-free. But even when she does have it, she does not have a reaction, or not a severe reaction.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so then she got me to work with her sister, who is having a significant neurological issue, and she hadn't been able to walk without falling down for over 2 years. So she conned her sister into working with me, and after 4 appointments, she stopped falling, and she is more than a year being fall free.
That's amazing.
So she no longer needs to use her walker. She can stand at the stove and cook simple meals, and it was a neurological issue. Now, whether it comes back at some point, she's not very good at lifestyle management, like doesn't eat really well and all of that kind of stuff. So eventually that could come back. But we worked on the nervous system. I remember one of the things was having to address the trauma of having gallbladder surgery, because the body never got the memo that the gallbladder got removed. So then the coordinating organs are angry or upset because they're like, hey, somebody's not here doing their job, right? So if you think of any company that all of a sudden employees stopped showing up, but nobody ever heard from them as to why, where, what, how.
And they were responsible for
and they were responsible for certain acts, then the other employees that have to pick up that slack are going to not be very happy. And the organs and the systems of the body aren't much different. So we had to address, one of the things was the fact that she had gallbladder surgery, and allowing the body to be kept up to, you know, up to speed, that was something that happened. Another thing that we had to address for her was serotonin. And I'm like, we're not treating her for depression or anything like that. So, like, why is serotonin coming up? And I don't always know the answers, right? The body's telling me this is where we need to go. These are the connections that need to be made. And I was like, okay, well, and then after she left, after the session was over, I'm like, what does serotonin have anything to do with the fact that her muscles basically don't work right, or that they're not firing off in the right time? And it actually has a role in the muscle's ability to contract and release. I was like, fascinating. So she saw significant improvements after even that appointment. And then we did a couple more to address a few other things. But yeah, over a year, and she's still able to walk. Her sister says she's a little wobbly because she doesn't live locally. It was remote work. But yeah.
And so when you have obviously some neurological issues that can cause certain things, but does this stuff also work with, like, aging population? Is it always a neurological issue, or is it a physical thing? And if it was an aging population person that has a similar issue, would it work similarly, do you think?
Well, there is a level in which the body has gone too far. Right? So there's working with the energy systems of the body, and on this conscious level, and working in an energetic way. If the body has gone into such state of dysfunction, sometimes surgery is really the only option, right? Things can go too far that there is no turning back on this level, right? But if it hasn't gotten that far, then we do have the ability to help or assist other parts of the body to assist that function.
Which is also why it's really important to not ignore things going on, because if you can catch it early, it can actually make it easier to treat.
Yes, absolutely. The earlier the better, right? And even prevention. Like people often don't think about going in for healthcare treatments for prevention. So how about if diabetes runs in your family? How about if you go and see somebody to prevent that from happening down the road? So this woman that I told you about with the gluten and the colon cancer, she didn't want to get that neurological disorder. So she was coming for the preventive aspect as well. And she didn't want to get married because she didn't want to be that burden to her husband. And she has since gotten married.
Oh, wow.
So how wonderful of a story is that? Because she's no longer afraid of that condition taking over her life.
So how does the prevention aspect work differently than the triaging aspect in this?
So the only difference with the prevention is we can't measure the results, right? We can't say, oh, you know, you had this symptom and now that symptom's gone, right? So prevention is unfortunately not something that we can measure because it's a preventative thing, right? But if we get all the systems of the body working the way that they're supposed to, then it's going to take care of the job to make sure that things happen, right? I always say that life is like going down a road, and initially the road is nice and smooth, and over time potholes develop, and the more potholes there are in the road, the slower it takes you to get to work or to your destination. And the less time that you have, right, to get to work, then that's less time that you have, or the more time it takes you to get to your destination, the less time you have in your day to do other things, right? So if instead of taking 10 minutes to get to work, it now takes you 30 minutes, well then that's 40 minutes at the end of the day that you lost in commuting time that you no longer have for you to do other things in your life. And the body is no different, right? We talked about that book, The Body Keeps Score. So if you imagine every event that we've had that we haven't really been able to truly process and let go of, it's like another pothole in that road. And the body's trying so hard for that homeostasis. It's trying so hard to do the job that it can, but eventually it doesn't have enough time to complete all of the jobs, because now it has to be detoured all over the place. Oh, that part's not working well? Well, I'm still going to try and make that happen, but now I have to go all the way over here. I have to go the long road, and then everything becomes the long road. So the body is spending more time trying to get to somewhere and fix something, and more energy, and it has less resources because we're not actually doing anything to improve that efficiency of the body. So with the prevention, we are getting the body to work more efficiently. We're getting all the parts and pieces in place so that the body can do the job on the level that it's supposed to. So it has that vitality, it has those resources to do the job.
And that brings me to a statement that I know you probably believe as well, that most of our society is still not told, is that our body has the ability to heal itself.
It does.
And really, if we address the energetic basis of it, and we can help align it back into a place where it can flow more naturally, then it can start to heal certain things that we have going on without needing some of these medications and surgeries and all those things.
Absolutely. And I understand that people have a hard time grasping that concept. But if you look at a baby being developed in utero, are you, as a mother, now we both had children, we both have children.
Yes.
Were you checking in every single day and every moment going, okay, liver, this is what you need to do. Heart, okay, start building the heart cells. Okay, start growing the fingers. Okay, start doing... No. We just stay out of the way. The body has this incredible intelligence that it knows the right sequence of what needs to be done at what time. Now, as adults, because life gets in the way, and we have all this stress and everything, and my God, more than ever, right? With all of the, the internet and everything that we read and hear, and fake information, real information, we never slow down. Our nervous system is constantly getting beat up. When things go wrong, we don't give ourselves that time to rest. So if the body never has a chance to rest, the brain is always going on to the next emergency, because every moment is an emergency.
Yeah.
Every stressor is the tiger chasing you.
Yeah.
Back in the caveman days,
Yeah.
right? It cannot distinguish between even thoughts or movies that we're watching, the things that we're taking in visually in our eyes, the thoughts that we have.
Mm-hmm.
The brain cannot distinguish between what's real and what's imagined.
That's true. Yeah. They've done studies on that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So if you're watching a scary movie and your nervous system is freaking out, your immune cells are fearful,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to impact you just as much as if you were actually in that real life scenario.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's a big part of, what gets interrupted in that intelligence of the body. And in what I do, I'm not actually making the change.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just setting up the circumstances to allow their body to do whatever it needs to do.
Yeah.
And it's going to determine how long it's going to take.
Mm-hmm.
People always ask me, what do you do for migraines? I'm like, and how many appointments is it going to take?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because I don't know what all the layers are that we have to get through of what is actually contributing to you experiencing those headaches.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just the environment? Is it stressors?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that's going on in the brain?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And I know you mentioned sleep a couple minutes ago. For people who, especially in today's super busy society, everybody's got to have a job. You can't even just be one person at home anymore. It's ridiculous. So for people who are literally burning the candle at both ends, and they recognize that they're not getting enough sleep, what would you recommend starting with that can improve that situation, even if it can't be exactly the way that they want it to be?
So some of the things that I would say is, number one, have a consistent wake and sleep schedule.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing that I would say is stay off your devices for at least 2 hours, before you go to bed, right? The devices emit blue light, or if you absolutely have to be on it, then at least wear the blue blocking glasses, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because the blue light mimics sunlight, the sun rising.
Mm-hmm.
So our brains are going to say, oh, the sun's coming up, it's time to be awake.
Mm-hmm. Now, is it the same for TVs, or is it different for TVs?
I don't think that TVs is, I think it's more of the laptops, the iPads, the cell phones. Yeah. Not to mention that if you're watching funny TikTok videos, right, it's boosting up, the adrenaline in your body, and it's very stimulating, that type of thing, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So ideally you want to stay off those. I personally don't find TV to be the same. Okay. Probably because it's much further away. Yeah. I actually find it to be kind of relaxing, although I hate a TV in a bedroom. Mm-hmm. That's just, like, it wires me if it's in the bedroom, but I can fall asleep no problem if I'm on the couch. Yeah. So I don't understand what that whole thing is with myself personally, but so staying off those devices a couple hours before going to bed. Consistent wake and sleep schedule, right? Have a routine before you go to bed, right? Put on your pajamas, brush your teeth, an hour before you're going. Have that wind down period. Just like children, right? You can't just have them, how many times have the dads been like, all of a sudden they start tickling them and they start horse playing, and you're like, what are you doing?
Like, don't rile them up, you're about to go to bed.
Right, exactly. So we are riling ourselves up with the information that we're taking, the shows that we're watching, and stimulating our nervous systems in a way that does not allow us to then easily relax. Yes. Dark rooms, right? Put the eye mask on them if you can't have
those eye masks, the 3D contouring ones that block all light out.
Yeah. So if you can't have like a complete dark room, then have some of those eye masks to have on hand to help that sleep. Yeah. Let's see.
Are you somebody that also recommends doing like the turn off the Wi-Fi signals and all that stuff, especially if your phone's nearby charging? Or?
So I personally do not bring my cell phone upstairs to the bedroom area. No one living in my house is allowed to keep their cell phones up on the second floor.
Good for you guys.
We keep them all on the first floor. So when we're going to bed, they get plugged in, they get put away. Mine is usually down by 8 o'clock unless there's some specific reason that I need to look at it.
So everybody has regular alarm clocks in the house then?
Well, my daughter does have a Echo, or so that wakes her up.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily approve, but you know, she is 23 and still living at home, so there's, you know, I can't be that strict on everything.
Yes.
But the rest of us don't have those in our rooms. We have a regular alarm clock that
Yeah.
wakes us up every
Yeah.
night. So those are a couple of things.
Mhm.
If you're prone towards insomnia or overthinking, you know, there are some supplements that you could take.
Mhm.
I have a wonderful technique in Body Talk. This is such an important technique.
Mm.
If anybody wants it, email me. You know, we can share my email
Yep, we're gonna get
information.
your contact
I
info
can
there.
send you
Mhm.
a link to a technique called cortices.
Okay.
And this is a wonderful technique. Oh my gosh. If you watch the video, it'll share all of the amazing things and benefits that this technique has. There are people who have been trained in Body Talk, and it's like when they go in and they're in a situation, I can't remember, just do cortices. If you can't do anything else, just do the cortices.
Okay.
And this helps to balance the different lobes of the brain,
Mm.
and it's wonderful. It takes you out of that reactive state into that parasympathetic state, that rest and rejuvenate state.
Mhm.
And it's really great if you have a tendency to have your mind kind of run. It helps if you have insomnia, and you can do it more than once. Like this is one of those techniques that has a cumulative effect.
Yeah.
So you can't do it too much.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as overdoing it on doing your cortices.
Mhm.
And that's something that I highly recommend. If you need to do it once, twice, 3 times until you start feeling yourself really relaxed. When I teach people that technique in workshops, it's so funny because they're all like, da, 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 da. And then after 2 rounds, everybody's so zen. They're so mellow. And they're like, I feel like somebody just drugged me, and because I'm just so relaxed now.
Yeah.
Because it just does that for the whole nervous system.
Mm.
And there's a whole bunch of other things that it does as well.
Mhm.
There's people who have come out of comas just from this technique.
Yeah,
It prevents
really?
people from going into shock if there's been a medical emergency. There's so many wonderful things that this technique does. It can help scan and wake up cold spots in the brain.
Wow.
It's really, really wonderful.
So is this a practice that somebody physically does themselves, or do
Yes.
they tune into something?
No, they're
I'm
going to
just wondering,
physically
like,
do
how
it.
did somebody
They're
come
going
out
to
of a coma?
physically, yeah. Oh, well, that would be somebody else doing it for them.
Okay.
Right?
All
So if they're in a coma, they can't do it
I
for
was gonna say.
themselves. It feels even better. I mean, it feels good to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
It feels amazing when somebody else does it
Does it
for you.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is a funny technique because people who are really skeptical, I'll do this technique and I'll check their balance. I'll have them stand on one leg and put an arm out and say, don't let me push your arm down, right? And they fall over so easily every single time, balance their cortices, and I can hang off of them like a monkey on a branch, and
Wow.
I can't get them to fall over.
Wow.
It has such an immediate reaction.
Wow.
Because if the brain is balanced and the different lobes are communicating to each other quickly, there's right brain, there's left brain, they both have their individual personalities or aspects, so to speak, but they have to communicate information back and forth all the time. So the faster that they are on point in sending those communication signals, the faster the brain can give the information out to the body.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Do you do anything too, like ionic foot baths?
So that's the health spa portion of my
Yeah.
business. These are therapies that are available to anyone. They do not have to be a regular client of mine. So anybody off the street, I have what's called a Solajet, which is a soft tissue massage bed.
Okay.
That is amazing. It will deliver the therapeutic benefits of a deep tissue massage.
Really?
75 minutes worth of deep tissue massage in just 20 minutes
Wow.
without the irritation or discomfort, and you don't have to take your clothes off.
That's
Right?
amazing.
Win-win situation.
Right.
I have what's called a Raylo therapy booth. So this is a patented wellness system that uses 4 proven spectrums of medical grade red light with dry salt inhalation therapy. So we have a Salt Perfect system in our booth that delivers very micro particles of salt so that it doesn't feel heavy. And they're so small that they absorb the red light, so you're actually getting the red light into your respiratory system.
Really interesting.
So it does a complete detox of the skin and airways. Very popular right now
Really? Especially with
when
respiratory
people start
issues
feeling a little something coming on,
colds and
right?
stuff.
Or they have the lingering coughs that they got sick and it's not really going away. 1 or 2 appointments, and for most people, if it's due to COVID or the flu or whatever, or some kind of respiratory issue that illness that they had, usually within 2 or 3 appointments, their cough is
So
is
people
gone.
with long COVID benefit from something
Absolutely.
like that.
Anybody with any kind of respiratory thing will benefit. If you have COPD or asthma, it will also benefit all of those people. And it's much more effective because you have the red light that's being absorbed by the salt crystals. The salt crystals are super small compared to a lot of places. Like some people have told me that, oh, I've gone in and I just felt like I could taste the salt, I could feel it, like it was really heavy, it kind of burned in my lungs. That means that the salt particles are too big. They're not actually getting all the way down to the alveoli, those little balloons, deep into the respiratory system. And that's really where you want to do it, so it does a detoxification.
Yeah.
So it's the only system in the world that pairs those two things. It just got patented in November of 2023.
Okay.
So that's something that I offer. And I have some light therapy that I do, and just recently, it's not available to the public yet, but I brought in something that is for fat loss.
Really?
And aesthetics.
Okay.
Yes, so this is non-invasive. It uses laser technology, but it's very, very safe. And it can be used on larger people, so we can treat the whole body for people. Because normally, you know, the only option is something invasive, like going in for liposuction, right? Which there's a lot of consequences to that. Cool sculpting, we know now. You can only treat, you have to, it has a lot of potential side effects. When you gain weight back, then you're
disfigured,
you're very disproportionate, and it can only help people who are within 10 or 15 pounds of their goal weight. So we have a whole weight loss system that we can do fat loss with the machine, a whole protocol to helping people lose weight, to get into a more reasonable BMI, and then we can transition to them to like the contouring and specific fat reduction in areas. So that's going to be coming next month. The machine just arrived 2 days ago.
Month would be March?
So February. I'm hoping to have it launched publicly in mid-February. Right now we're going through all the training, the certifications, and all of that. So so the whole thing for me is being harm-free, non-invasive. We're never going to poke you. You know, if we're stimulating acupuncture points, it's going to be with moxa or cool laser or essential oils or just tapping over the points. Everything that I do is non-invasive, and I'm really adamant on everything that I bring into my practice, all of the different therapies and systems that I offer, that they're as harm-free and safe as possible.
Amazing. And that's what everybody wants, right? Nobody wants to feel like they have to do something that might make them feel more pain and trying to get the result that they want. So non-invasive is personally the way to go. If you ask me, if you ask any other wellness practitioner, they're going to say non-invasive is the way to go. So we're going to wrap up in a little bit, but I would like to ask you a couple more questions. Where would you like to be with your wellness business in the next 5 years or so, and why would you want that?
So in regards to my wellness business in 5 years, I would like to be considered as being one of the top people in my field. I would like to have my name being known. I am trying to grow my business. I offer a lot right now, but I envision myself offering even more non-invasive things, more things for healing, more things where people can just come in and relax their nervous system, get treatments, PEMF. I've got all kinds of different things that I plan on bringing in over the next few years. But really, by being a bigger practice and being a whole wellness center and offering diversified treatments, whether it be one-on-one healthcare services, you know, harm-free biofeedback devices that are FDA approved, or whether it be these walk-in services that are touchless. I want people to have an awareness that there is so much benefit to things that are harm-free, and that this should be the first line of approach in getting yourself healthy before you try the invasive stuff. So I really want my business and my business name. I would love to see multiple clinics and almost be like a franchise where we're all over the place, so that people have a solution that they can go to and know that they're going to get what their body needs, and that they're going to do things for themselves that aren't going to have a whole handful or page worth of side effects. And that the worst thing that could possibly happen is that nothing changes.
You know,
but the chances are really
changes. That's much better than some of the side effects that are out there.
Right. You know, getting them off of their medications. But I mean, I even tell people, you know, if you can't afford to go see a practitioner that does something, then go with a friend and go take a class. Do a one-time investment. Barter and exchange treatments. Right. If you can't afford this, you're a hairdresser. We'll offer someone that you'd like to work with Hey,
Yeah.
I'll do your hair
Yeah.
if you can give me a treatment.
Yeah.
Right? Barter with people that you want to work with if you don't have the finances.
Yeah.
Take a Reiki class. It doesn't take a lot of time and it doesn't take a lot of money.
Yeah.
And exchange Reiki sessions with
Yeah.
your best friend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And once a week you meet, you have tea,
Yeah.
you have coffee, you have a glass of wine,
Yeah.
and you do Reiki on each other.
Yeah.
Right? There are lots of things that people can do. And the other message that I want to have for people is don't give up hope. If it's not working with me, there is someone out there that can help you. Now, maybe, if your feet are disfigured, maybe you do have to go in for surgery, but there might be other areas that people can help you with to stop things from getting worse, to support you in your journey for preventative measures. But just don't give up. Just keep looking. If that person's not it for you, and it's never going to be one size fits all, sometimes it takes a village. Right? Yeah. Could I eventually change your bones in your spine and align them? Yes. But if you go to a chiropractor, they're going to start doing that from day one, right? Because it could be 6 months down the road before your body starts letting me do that to you, right? So why would you want to wait? Then they don't have to do that. I can work on something else.
Yeah, which is also why it's so important for people to have a good resource network, right? Of other providers that you trust, that are in alignment with the same types of mentalities that you practice from. Which is why I have people like you coming on my podcast, because it is so important that there is a network of trusted providers that are ethical, that are harm-free as much as possible, and can be called on when you are out of your own scope of practice to handle those other pieces so that people can find full wellness.
And I want people to know as well that if they do seek those other invasive methods, we're not going to beat them up about it.
No, absolutely.
Right? Because sometimes people come in and they're like, oh, I'm on this medication.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. We work with you where you're at.
Right. We work with you where you're at. And eventually, would it be great if you could go off those medications? Yes. Have I had clients who have gone off all of their medications? Absolutely, I have. But is that for everybody? Maybe not. If you're in so much pain, well, let's work on what's causing the pain, but you stay on those pain medications because there's no point in being miserable. So I want people to know that we're not, so black and white that it's like, oh, well, if you're going to see a regular doctor or you want to have this, technique done or you want to have that, we're not going to shun you, right? It's okay. You are your own advocate for your own body, and it's important for you to do what you feel is right for you. Right? It's so important, and I think that's another thing that sometimes people feel almost bullied by some of their healthcare providers. What do you mean you didn't do that? I've experienced that in my own health journey. What do you mean you didn't do what I told you that you needed to do? And why did you not do that? And then get very, very angry with me. Because it just didn't feel like the right thing. My gut was telling me, then I will never judge anyone.
Likewise. Awesome. And then lastly, where can people find you? What's your address and social media handles if you want to share those, the email address?
So, so we have Facebook, Instagram. Those are, I don't know, Facebook, Bali Holistic Wellness Center, same thing with Instagram. You can find me on there. You can go on my website, which is www.balihw for holisticwellness.com. I'm located in Londonderry. I'm less than a half a mile off of exit 4 off I-93.
And if people want to reach you on email, they should go to your website?
They can go to my website. They can just type in info@balihw.com and they can email me that way. It's really easy to even book online for like a consultation. So if people want to do a consultation, it doesn't cost anything. They can do a phone consultation. They can call me. And I just had someone recently, it turns out they didn't realize it was a non-invasive clinic and they were looking for a naturopath. I emailed them. I said, listen, these are some of our services, but here are 2 naturopathic doctors. If that's what you want, here are their names. These are people that I trust that you can reach out to that will help you.
Great.
Right? So sometimes I just give them resources. Or I'll give them a link to a video or something. Right? So even if you don't work with me, it's okay. It's okay. But call me. Don't hesitate to call me. And there's a zero pressure approach to work with me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for coming on this podcast. And I look forward to additional conversations coming up with you. And there's so much more to learn. So.
Absolutely. Always. Right? Always an opportunity to learn.
Always. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.